Hello friends, welcome to your own YouTube channel Achievers Data Engineering. My name is Gyanendra and in this video of Power BI interview questions and answer series, we are going to talk about how to explain your previous Power BI projects that you have worked on. Along with that, how can you showcase your skills in the interview or to the interviewer to make sure that you will be selected in their interview. We will also discuss how can you avoid couple of mistakes that you shouldn't do in any interview regarding in Power BI or any other interviews. Also, sometimes if you're not able to answer any specific questions during the interview and you get nervous, then what should you do at that point of time? So this is going to be a good content if you are about to attending any Power BI interview recently, and also it whether you are like experienced or you are a fresher, you should go ahead and watch this video to get an idea what should you do before attending an interview. So let's get started. All right, guys. So before I go ahead and jump directly on how to explain your previous projects that you have worked on, let's first talk about a couple of pro tips that you should follow if you are about to attend a Power BI interview or any interview, I should say. So first of all, if you don't have any Power BI certification, then don't worry, right? So during this lockdown period and since this corona pandemic is in there, every company and every training or tutorial organization is has given a lot of offer. Even Microsoft and Google's are floating their offers so that everyone can learn their technology and start work on them. And that's why a lot of people, so many people have completed the certifications as of now that you can see on LinkedIn or Google in someone's profile. However, if as of now you don't have any Power BI certification, then don't worry, don't take it as a negative point if you are about to attend an interview. Whenever a employee hires a person, he rather focus on experience over the certification because you might know you might not know anything, but you have just completed the certification with using some basic knowledge or some other tips or tricks, right? So instead, if you have 5 years of work experience, then definitely you can crack the interview by giving the real-time answers, by following the best practices that you have learned during 5 years of tenure or whatever experience that you have gained so far, right? So don't worry if you have any certification, just be confident whatever you know and focus on what you can do. Now, another point I must say that if you have worked on so many years on Power BI, but you don't tell it to someone, right? So if somebody don't know how much you know in Power BI, if someone haven't seen any piece of your work, then it's of no use, right? So what you can do to actually showcase your skills is whenever you are about to attend any Power BI interview or any interview regardless of any technology, be sure to get ready with some sample pieces of your work. So if you talk about Power BI especially, then go ahead and take some dummy data. Maybe you can grab Adventure Works database and create your own visualization. Maybe you can go ahead and take participation in couple of challenges. For example, Onyx challenge which is going on. I'll mention the link in the description. So be sure participate in those challenges. Create some dummy dashboards, upload them on the Google Drive and mention that public share link on your resume or on your LinkedIn profile. And whenever an interviewer is about to, ask some questions, you can refer those links to him and he will be able to, see those visualization that you have worked in past taking your own time, right? And if interviewer will see those visualization in front of him, definitely he's going to ask question about that. And because you have done taken your time on that visualization, you will be able to answer your questions confidently, right? So be sure get ready with some sample work that you have done. All right. Now, make sure that you are enthusiastic about Power BI or about any technology that you are mentioning in your resume. So while interview, if you're not able to give couple of questions, if you're not able to answer couple of questions, then don't get nervous, right? Because if you'll get nervous, interviewer will judge you that, okay, you have just mugged up couple of questions and you didn't know this, and that's why you're not able to answer, right? So avoid that, right? So be confident, whatever you know, answer that confidently. And if you are stuck in a particular question, always say that I am a fast learner. There are a lot of community support available on Google, on Power BI community. I'll go ahead and grab some hint from there and I'll learn quickly and implement that in my project. So interviewer will be, amazed to see your response. Just say it loudly and confidently that I can do it, just taking from help from community support, right? So just don't get nervous, be confident, and don't get the interviewer realize that you don't actually know it and you won't be able to do it. Be focused, be smart, and say that I will be able to do it. Maybe I don't know it right now, but certainly I will be able to learn it and do it. Now, let's move to the another point. Another point says talk about other tools and technologies, right? So if you are explaining any project or if you are explaining what you have done so far in your previous organization, don't just stick around the Power BI. Like if you think that it's a Power BI interview, client is looking for a data analyst who is like focused on Power BI. So just don't stick on the Power BI, make sure that you are mentioning other tools that you have worked on. So for example, you can say SQL Server. Nowadays, a Jira tool is in trend, so everyone is doing its like project management or task management using Jira tool. Or maybe you can say that I have worked in agile methodology, agile environment. So these kind of things will grab attention from the interviewer, right? So he will be able to understand you properly that okay, you have worked in a uh, full environment where everything is being used and you are not have worked on, you have not standalone worked on Power BI. And if time comes, then you will be able to switch on other technologies and you will be able to learn them, right? So another point, another pro tip is read job description properly, right? So most of the time, if a company is floating a job description, they make it clearly, they mention it in clear words that the data analyst or a data engineering analyst that we are looking for, we have such kind of expectation from you. For example, you will be working on maybe decision making, or maybe you will be working on sales analysis, or maybe you will be working on financial reporting, XYZ, right? So if you will read your job description carefully, then you will get some glimpse that which kind of questions interviewer will be asking you, right? So you can read it properly and you can make sure just Google couple of questions related to that topic. Make sure you are be ready with scenario based questions considering that scenario which is mentioned in job description, right? So if you will follow these 5 pro tips, definitely it will give you upper hand while attending any interview, regardless it's for Power BI or for any other technology, right? So now let's move to the another topic, like how to explain your previous projects, right? So let's get started with that. All right. So how to explain your previous projects, what you have done in Power BI so far, right? So first of all, if you actually have some experience on Power BI, you have worked on any organization for a few years, and now you are changing your job in a different company, and at that point of time, you are explaining your previous project, then it must be a piece of cake for you, right? But if you have just learned this technology, you have just learned Power BI, and you are trying to get a job on that, it's going to be really hard because interviewer will definitely ask you that explain me any projects that you have done in Power BI. And I can bet you that you must have mentioned that you have got 2 years of experience in Power BI, but in actually that you haven't worked, right? So if you are about to do that, make sure that you actually come up with a fake project, I must say, right? So when I'm saying fake, what you need to do actually, you need to create a dummy project. So for example, if you are working in a company where let's take an example. You have worked in a company which is from healthcare industry, or maybe from sales, or XYZ, like for example in marketing. So whatsoever domain you are working earlier, you must have worked on some data, right? If you are from data engineering background, if you are from any other IT background, then you must have handled some data. So go ahead and grab some sample data, create some dummy data by on referring to the actual, metadata that you have worked on in previous. Create couple of visualization, try to test some, real scenarios in that data, and create some dummy dashboards so that you will be able to confidently tell the interviewer that, okay, I worked on such kind of data and I created these kind of reports. Now you can definitely drag those, you can explain those dashboards and reportings that you have done only in few weeks, and just for the learning, you can explain it to interviewer that, okay, I was working on this kind of project and I have, spent 2 years on that project. I was, I started with a couple of reports, and then I, created couple of embedded reports, dashboards, and so on that you can add on, right? So be sure that you are creating a dummy dashboard, creating and working on the dummy data related to the domain of organization that you are working right now. All right. So that will actually give some reference and some practicality to the interviewer that, okay, because this company is from healthcare domain, and that's why you have worked on, reporting which was related to healthcare. But be sure, be ready with some kind of keywords or some specific situations that you must have handled in that dashboard, right? So now let's assume that you have created a dummy dashboard, you have created some dummy story about the reporting task that you have worked so far in previous organization, right? So now when it comes to explaining your previous project in Power BI, first of all, you should start with a success story. Now, when I'm saying success story, that means you should say that what was good about that project, right? And how confidently and how you were able to deliver that project, deliver that reports on time, and you will be able to make the good impression to the client or to the organization, right? Now, second thing that you must say, you must explain the goals of projects, right? So, for example, let's take an example of sales data. So, you can give an example that I was working on a sales data, and the goal of my reporting task and dashboarding task using Power BI was to identify the sales pattern using that data, and the goals of that project was to identify in which demographics there are enough sales, and which gender or which age group are buying these kind of products. So like, based on the data that you have prepared, you can come up with some keywords and identify some KPIs by your own, and you can mention those KPIs as a goal to the interviewer. Now, moving towards the third point, how this project added value to the organization. Now, this is the most important question whenever an interviewer asks this question to you, or if you are kind of explaining your project, make sure that you are mentioning what was the impact of your reporting to the business, right? Because ultimately, whatever reporting we do, it is for the good impact on the business. Either business is trying to identify what are the, issues going on, or maybe it is for the betterment of the company, right? So make sure that you are mentioning the impact of your reporting and dashboards that you are preparing on the business, right? Now, another point is what creativity you added in the project. So obviously, if you will explain them, okay, I got this requirement from client, I prepared and I delivered. So you haven't done anything extra. You just did your job. If you will mention the creativity that you added, maybe you can add on like, I suggested this thing to the client, and okay, and it was praised by everyone. So that shows that you were taking interest in your project, you suggested something to the client, you shown your creativity, and that actually gave some added advantage in the reporting. So make sure that you are mentioning these points. So apart from that, specify the skills and technology required to complete the project. So make sure you are mentioning this point at the end, because if you will mention other technologies, the next question, there would be high probability that the next question would go on some other technology that you must have used in that project. Now, I would again recommend start with a success story. These three points, maybe you can shuffle them as per the situation or as per the project that you are explaining. However, like success stories should come in the first, and other skills and technologies should come at the end. And do not forget to mention the creativity that you added in the project. All right. So I hope you are getting some idea how can you go ahead and explain your project, how can you go ahead and explain any other project that you have worked on. Even if you have done some reporting on advanced Excel or Excel, then you can kind of assume it that you have done it on Power BI and explain it to the interviewer. Because if you will get hired, if you will move to the next round, interviewer is not going to call to your manager and confirm, okay, did this person has worked on this reporting or not. They will just confirm, okay, you were the employee of that organization, right? So be confident and explain it with full of confidence, whatever you have prepared for your interview. All right. Now let's talk about things to avoid in interview, right? So everyone talks about how to give a better interview, and so far we have discussed that. Now let's talk about things that you should not do in your interview. So first of all, never criticize your previous employee. I mean, actually, I have a personal experience. I had one friend who were, whenever he was giving an interview, an interviewer asking him the same question, why you want to change and why you want to looking for a new job, then he just, start criticizing the previous employee. If you are doing so, you are never going to get that job. So make sure that you are never criticizing your previous employee. Regardless you had some issues or not, do not bring those on the table. Just avoid them and be confident and answer it in a different way. Now, another point is don't drag your answers and don't get into too much detail. So, for example, interviewer has asked you to explain your project. Let's think that. So, explain it on a high level, already fixed couple of points as we discussed over here, right? So, just make sure you are explaining your projects within 2 minutes. Do not get into too much minor details. If you will do so, there would be high chances that you will get stick within, within a specific project, and interviewer will, ask you multiple questions and you will, finally fail, right? So do not get into too much detail. Explain it on the high level. If interviewer is interested in your project, then definitely he will ask you another question. If he is not, don't give him opportunity to ask minor questions related to that project, right? So just start with your answer and complete it within 2 or 3 minutes, depending upon the width, or depending upon the task that you are handling or in your project, right? Now, talking about the third point. So whenever we give an interview, so at the end, interviewer always ask, do you have any questions for me? So this is actually best opportunity to grab a good to give a end up with a good impression with interviewer, right? Do not do not let it go waste. And whenever an interviewer is asking you, do you have any questions? Do not ask any generic questions like what is an average hike in your company? How is the food in cafeteria? Or do not ask some silly or generic questions, right? It's an opportunity for you. You can show that you are interested in this job. So go ahead and ask some questions related to the projects. So maybe you can ask, is it possible I can get to know more about the projects that I will be hired, that I am being hired for? So that will leave a good impression on the interviewer, and he will think, okay, this candidate is interested in this project from today onwards, and I'm sure he will be a good candidate for this project. So if interviewer is explaining you the project's detail, then it's good for you, because if you are selected for the another round, then in another round you can go ahead and prepare yourself, considering the situations and considering the environment for that project or that whatever interviewer has explained to you, right? So make sure you are asking a proper question. Like we cannot create a list of questions that you should ask. That completely depends upon what is going on in your interview, right? And how, which kind of communication is there during between you and your interviewer. And so uh, based on the type of interview, based on the type of project, you can ask a question to the interviewer and make sure that you are asking it. So be ready for that. All right, so I am sure it was enough of talking and you must have got bored, but I'm sure that you must have got some idea how to explain your projects when you are going to, attend any interview, and you can make how can you present yourself better and be ready for your interview. So if you like the content, please don't forget to subscribe, hit the like button, and keep learning, and best of luck for your interview. Thank you for watching. Keep learning. Have a great day.